Another exciting weekend in URC. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. We had plenty of teams scrambling for points and wins at the weekend, and given that it's so close for those playoff places and at the top of the table as well, just means that every game somebody is going for something in it, and some of the teams know, well, most of the teams know that any kind of slip up is going to be punished by the other teams around them as well. So it means that everybody's got to go for it. Everybody, you can't kind of be conservative at this point, because a bonus point could be the difference between making the playoffs and not, or getting home advantage to a certain point through the playoffs as well. So and even down the bottom, it's so close down there too that teams again, bonus points are going to make the difference, I think, between who finishes bottom of the table as well. So, and it just means that we get to enjoy brilliant rugby from pretty much every team in the league. Not always close games, but still we can see that there's no kind of dead rubbers this year, whereas if you just look at this back at this time last year, there were certainly teams who didn't have that much to play for. They were out of any chance of getting into the playoffs and out of their own kind of domestic shield as well. But this year it's just having those couple of extra teams that are in there with a chance that have lifted the game this season has just completely transformed the league in terms of just the competitiveness of it, and I just think it's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go through the games of the weekend. I'm going to start with Scarlets 27, Sharks 32. So brilliant win from the Sharks on the road, and I think is that 3 out of 4 or their last 4 or something they've won, but they've really woken up now and starting to produce results, not just performances. So game starts with just some lovely hands from them across the line, and like on the way to that score as well, there was Lekanyuam with just a fantastic tip on pass, one of those ones where he barely even touches the ball, but just before he gets smacked in the tackle as well, but it just gets the ball to the right spot and puts the Sharks in a good position. And then there's one more pass out to Cock, and he goes over in the corner. Then Ryan Elias with some lovely footwork, actually. He goes through a gap, gets in behind, steps to cover, and then goes over to score. Brilliant from him. Then we had a couple of scores from close range, one from each team. And then later in the second half, then 2 almost identical crossfield kicks lead to 2 more tries for Cock, and ultimately his hat-trick. And then Nicholas darts over from kind of close range for the Scarlets to get them a losing bonus point out of the game as well. And I thought that the Scarlets' general play definitely deserved to get something out of the game at least. I think the Sharks are definitely the better of the 2 teams, but Scarlets deserved their bonus point, their losing bonus point out of that as well. Really entertaining game as well to watch. Like, I watched a bit kind of a longer highlights package than like some of the games. I had to watch the instant highlights thing, and those are terrible. But it was the only one you can find on the internet at a certain time after the game. That's what you're gonna watch, I guess. But yeah, decent game there, and a great way to kick off the weekend. Also another brilliant game in the Kingspan. It was also 38, Benetton 34. So in this one, Menoncello goes over early on for Benetton. Really good move for that try as well. And Menoncello was absolutely fantastic in the game as well. And then Ulster start coming back. Stewart gets over from them, and then Cruthers is over from close range, I think. So Ulster, taking a little bit of a little bit of kind of getting themselves in charge before half time. And then the Stockdale try, I thought was really good. Like they moved the ball nice and quickly, got McCluskey in a bit of a space out on the left wing. Then he puts in a brilliant kick, and Stockdale gets there first, under a lot of pressure as well, and gets the ball down to score. Then second half, then we have Umaga goes over for Benetton as they start working their way back into the game. But Ulster, I think one of the things that really counted for them in this game was the fact that, you know, when Benetton did kind of start coming back at them, Ulster were able to go again, and that's what they did. Like, you know, Umaga goes over, then Addison is over for Ulster a couple of minutes later. We do have like a decent period for Benetton, where they get 2 tries in 6 minutes. Halafihi, decent move for that one. Then Nemmer, I'm pretty sure Nemmer's one was where Menachello just put in like a dream step. I can't remember who he stepped on the Ulster side, but it was just brilliant feat from him, and then that pretty much made the try. Then we had Izuchukwu gets over for his first try for Ulster, and at that point then, as we're coming in towards the end of the game, pretty sure that Ulster are gonna win the game. Cooney slots a penalty as well, just to give them that little bit of breathing room. And then Benetton, they've already got like a try bonus point at this point, but then Albanos gets over and converts his own try as well to get them a second bonus point out of the game as well, the losing bonus point there too. And I thought, again, Benetton's play absolutely deserved that. It was a brilliant game again to watch this one. I watched in full, and there is a full report on the channel as well, so if you want to kind of hear a little bit more about my thoughts on that, you can go and check that out on the channel. But yeah, I felt like Ulster, definitely the performance, big step up compared to that Cardiff one where they somehow won. Benetton, again, being hugely competitive on the road. And you can just see it, that like, if it feels like, you know, Benetton are season on season just getting better and better, and at some point they're going to make at least, you know, the final of this competition, and maybe lift the trophy in the next few years if they keep that up. And it's great to see as well, you know, for a long time, you know, not in recent years, certainly not in Benetton's case, you could argue about Zebre, but you know, for a long time in not URC times, but certainly in Pro 14, Pro 12, Celtic League or whatever, right? But when the Italian teams were there, you know, there was a lot of kind of people thinking, you know, similar to Italy in the Six Nations, really, why are they there? They don't really add anything. They're not very competitive and blah, blah, blah. And Benetton have shown like what the benefit of that is that they've become competitive. It took a long time to do, but you know, what are you going to do? You know, you can't just like click your fingers and suddenly a team have everything in place to be competitive at this kind of level. Like, they've built it up over the years, and they've done it really well, I feel. And we can see that Zebre is starting to do that. They're obviously much further behind on that journey, but you can see that, you know, at home that they're getting more competitive, and it's brilliant to see, you know, the Italian teams being like that. It's also nice to see Ulster. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Richie Murphy there. There's kind of rumors about, you know, he's not going to get the permanent position and blah, blah, blah. For me, I don't know why they kind of, you know, would give him a short-term contract and then kind of, you know, say that there's a possibility that he could be kept on if they knew that they had other people in mind. Like, why not just say, okay, he's going to do a short-term stint there, but he's not in the picture for the permanent job, and when he's finished there, he's going to go on and do something else, whether that's return to under 20s, or maybe, you know, if he's going to be like maybe, you know, an assistant there at Ulster, or move into some other role with the RFU. But I don't see the point in, if it's true, again, these are all rumors, right? But if it is true, I don't see the point of taking someone who's been a very successful coach at bringing, you know, young players on through our system at under 20 level, and then, you know, basically putting him in a position where he takes Ulster for the few months that are left in the season, and then suddenly he's out of a job at the end of that because they brought somebody else in. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would you kind of almost shoot yourself in the foot like that, right? But hopefully it's not true, because I think he's doing okay so far. It's obviously too early to judge him, but we'll see what happens with the rest of the season. And, you know, I would like to see him getting a chance from next year. But wherever they decide, hopefully, you know, Dan McFarlane got a lot of stick at the end, rightly so, I think, in terms of the way his tenure ended. But, you know, he did a lot of good things for Ulster as well. So hopefully, you know, in terms of overall impact, that they can kind of get to that level that Dan McFarlane got them at points during his tenure, and maybe lift some silverware as well. But yeah, really good game. On to the Saturday games then. So the early game was Zebre 9, Glasgow 40. And we had, first of all, the Glasgow Warriors. You know, they're actually like behind, because Zebre get a couple of penalties early on, and we're like 10 minutes, like it's 6-0, I think, with, is that right? I think it was 6-0, right, with 10 minutes to halftime or something. Then that like line out maul combo that they have is just such a weapon for them, and they got over twice with Hiddleston for them. So then, you know, they're in the lead. Then staying with some really nice footwork to finish a move out wide, and then the second one I think was just really nice hands to set that up as well for another try in the corner. At that point, Glasgow have the bonus point, and you're pretty sure that, you know, the game is done. Zebre are up to 9 points, but no real kind of threat coming from them at that point. And Dobie and Horn add on you know, scores in the last kind of 5 minutes or so to kind of blow the score out a little bit more. So really good performance from Glasgow, and when we have a look at the table, we see that it was very significant as well for them. Next then we have Vodacom Bulls 61, Ospreys 24. So Ospreys coming off that amazing win, you know, in the last round, and looking to do, you know, what people before they went down there would have said a very unlikely double down in South Africa. But, you know, they couldn't quite, well, like it was a bit little bit one-sided, but, you know, they couldn't get there in this one. But still, I think they should be proud of their efforts down in South Africa. I think most people would have said, you know, if they come away with maybe a couple of bonus points out of the trip, that would have been decent from them. So to come away, you know, with a win down in South Africa is brilliant, and just shows how much that team have come on in, you know, the last year or so. It's, you know, like this season they've been a real revelation, I think. And again, kind of like Benetton, it's brilliant to see a Welsh team actually performing in the URC and being up there in the mix to potentially, you know, make it to the playoffs as well. We need all of the nations involved, you know, at the end of the season. We can't be having, like we've seen with Welsh teams in the last couple of seasons, like we can't be having the Welsh teams, you know, completely out of it at this point of the season. So it's great to see that from them, and hopefully we're going to see, you know, more Welsh teams become competitive next year as well. But in terms of the game then, Bulls over early on. I think it was like just power for Groblar's one, right? Then Creel there was a really nice move. I can't remember who it was that broke, but it was a break, and then Creel was there to finish off. Then Ospreys, with a nice move of their own, they get Davis over to score, and then Curtly Arendse. I think both of Arends's tries actually were from his point of view very easy, because we're used to seeing him stepping and using his pace to get in, but these ones were just close to the line. Nice kind of long ball over the top. He's like a meter out when he catches it, and then just has to dumb it down. Then Ospreys looking for kind of to get themselves back into the game before the break, but there's an intercept, and that leads to a try for Kane and Moody. Then second half, then some nice hands again from the Bulls, and Moody is over again at that point. Then the game was over as a contest. Then Papier running a really nice support line finishes off a move under the post. Williams does get in for Ospreys, but as I said, like, the game was gone at that point. Arendse again, I'm pretty sure it was another one, just nice ball over, and then he finishes. Giles then gets in for Ospreys, and then they're pressing to try and get like that try bonus point, because he's got 3 tries on the board already with a couple of minutes to go. But then there's an intercept, and Willie LaRue runs pretty much the length of the field to score under the post, and round off a brilliant performance from the Bulls, and really a little bit of redemption from them as well, after losing last week as well, and just getting their season a little bit back on track from there. Okay, so next one then we have Cardiff 7, Edinburgh 24. So Cardiff, unlucky to lose against Ulster last week, but Edinburgh were definitely the better of the two teams in this one. We had Schumann gets over for Edinburgh, about midway through the first half, I think. Then it was Rhys Carey, right? He's moved. I'm not sure who he's moving to, but I know he's leaving Welsh rugby and going to England from next season. And he was basically saying that he pretty much feels like Warren Gatland doesn't want him, so why should he stick around? He was saying that it wasn't anything to do with Cardiff, it was to do with the situation with the Welsh national team, and that he felt like whatever he did, he wasn't going to get into the team. But he came on nice pace coming onto a ball, and a nice angle as well, and I think it was Healy was trying to tackle him, but when he's got that much momentum behind him, he's going to get over. He gets over to score. Then we have then 20 minutes to go. Ashman gets over for Edinburgh, and then Healy tacks on a penalty for them as well. And 5 minutes to go, Venter is over for the third one. Edinburgh can't quite get the the fourth try that would have given the bonus point win, but still decent win from them. And it's from their point of view, I think it's good as well that to keep themselves in the mix, because remember last year they did fall away a little bit and ended up missing out on the playoffs. So on to the next one then. Lions 13, Munster 33. So Lions coming off the back of that fantastic win against depleted Leinster side or not, it's still going to be, you could see the way they celebrated at the end of the game like last week, that it was still a significant win for them against Munster, who had their own significant win the week before, beating the Bulls at Loftus, and then managed to do double here. So it was Lions 13, Munster 33 at Emirates Airlines Park. And I thought that Munster played this game pretty well. We have O'Donoghue. There were some penalties early on. Crowley and Hendrickson kind of with a couple of penalties, and Crowley, I think, got 3 penalties or something, right? It was like 9-3 or something before we saw the first try. I think O'Donoghue's effort was from fairly close range. Then a nice move from Munster off the back of a scrum, and then Coombs is out wide in the tram lines carrying, but normally you would expect like Gavin Coombs to be the guy who just takes the line from there, but really nice hands from him to give it to Daly, and Daly goes over to score. Then Lions, a nice try from them to get Boda over, and but at that point, then you still feel like Munster are in control of the game, really. And we also had, I forgot, like Munster got a penalty try, because, geez, how did I forget this? So Simon Zebre does a loose ball, and he's kicked it like about 3 times, like really great control, like a soccer player or a footballer, as we would call it here, and it's even like a crazy slide tackle on him and everything. But then he gets taken out, like just before the line, like maybe 3 or 4 meters short of the line. He's just kicked the ball on, and he's going to win the race there to kind of flop on it and score, and then he gets tackled without the ball, so it's a yellow card for Lowe, and a penalty try as well to Munster. I don't know how I forgot that one. It was probably the main highlight of the game, honestly. But yeah, he'd scored that earlier. So at this point then, even when Bota goes over, Munster have the game pretty much wrapped up. But then Gavin Coombs gets over for the bonus point try as well. 2 minutes to go in the game. So brilliant, win for Munster and tour there as well. That's why I'm wearing my Munster jersey today as well, just to give them props for an amazing achievement, like going down to South Africa and winning both of your games on a tour down there. There aren't many other teams that are going to do that in the future. And I talked about how Munster were kind of clawing their way up the table rather than steaming up the way they did last year, but we're seeing now real momentum getting behind this Munster team. And I think in terms of the defense of the title now, they're going to be a team that are going to be hard to beat. I think it's going to be one of these ones where somebody is going to have to like wrench that trophy out of the hands if they are going to, if they're not going to retain it. They're not going to make it easy for whoever, if somebody does stop them from retaining it. Okay, but great result from them. Lions, it's a defeat for them, but I think after the elation of the week before, maybe getting up to that level again, this week, might have been a bit much for them, but they look to now recover. And again, like they're in the hunt for the playoff places, so they've got to now kind of turn themselves around and get themselves together again and try and produce a win in the next round. Okay, so next time we have the Stormers 42, Leinster 12. So first of all, Ben Loader, before we get there, actually, like Leinster, and again, this is another one where I've got a full review on the channel, so you want to see that, go and look at that, and you'll hear my rant about Leinster's selection. Not particularly happy with the selection that was sent down to South Africa, but Loader, really great pace for his score early on. Then penalties from the Bach, stretching that lead out for them as well. Then we have Morat going over from close range just before halftime as well, to give him a decent halftime lead. Then Yanchi's first minute of the second half, he gets over, converted by Lebach, and it's like 30 points to 0 at that stage. Then Leinster wake up, like there was a lot of mistakes from Leinster in the first half, and a lot of kind of misalignment in attack and stuff like that, and poor handling and all that. But then they clicked for a few minutes. Deegan gets over for a try. Then Rob Russell as well, a couple of minutes after him. Like some really well worked tries. Like suddenly, the running lines seemed to be good. The handling just improved immensely. And then they had like chances after that as well to score further tries, but they didn't go their way. Also, the scrum was under huge pressure in the first half, and they kind of brought it back in the second half. But then, Evan Roos gets a yellow card for the Lions, and you're thinking, well, Leinster momentum was with them, but they couldn't, in the end, couldn't do anything with it. If I felt like at that point, Leinster had it within them to maybe come back and get a losing bonus point. I still didn't think they were going to win the game, but I thought, yeah, they might get back within that 7 points. But that didn't happen for them. And then last 10 minutes, then Stormers go away. Engelbrecht's try was nice, but then the pick of the bunch for me was Hallant right at the end. Just he sold an amazing, and I mean absolutely amazing dummy to two Leinster players, and then just darts in on the left as they're just gone completely the wrong way. It was brilliant. So like if you watch any of the tries of the weekend, for me that's the pick of the tries of the weekend. Just that, or not even the try itself, it's just that dummy in the lead up was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and just a great win for the Stormers. Now the Stormers, in terms of overall performance, did I think they were brilliant? No. There was when Leinster were poor at the beginning, the Stormers weren't brilliant themselves either. And it turned out like they definitely obviously deserved the win. There's no kind of doubt about that. But still, there's a lot of work on for the Stormers as well. They had some fair few errors on their side of things as well. So, both these teams, Leinster be thinking, well, I don't know exactly what the coach will be thinking, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be something along the lines of, well, the tour was a bust before this game anyway, so now they're going to get back to Dublin. The other players are going to come back in, and they're going to prepare for Champions Cup and then back to URC after that. So, they won't be kind of focused too much, I think, on this result, but it does still have a huge effect on the rest of the season. We saw last year as well that that kind of gamble that they took of sending, an even weaker squad to South Africa last year kind of backfired in terms of, they decided to keep two separate squads of players in Dublin for preparation, for the URC knockouts and for the Champions Cup, and they ended up losing the two big games that they were resting players for. So, sometimes I think like, players just need to play, and if players are playing and doing well, then and if you're, I'm not saying, bring the entire first team down to South Africa and play them in both games. I'm saying, well, bring a fair slice of the team that would be there, at least in the URC every week, and give them at least, one game or 60 minutes of a game or something, and not have them kind of, in cotton wool for 3 weeks and maybe, rusty when they come back. So, but, yeah, I said Stormers deserved to win. Leinster deserved to lose by as much as they did, honestly. On to then the final game of the weekend, Dragons 27, Connacht 34. So Dragons were, a decent performance for them compared to, what we've seen certainly in recent rounds from them. Connacht, just up and down. If you're a Connacht fan, you're used to these kind of performances, right? Where it looks like they're doing well, and then suddenly they implode, and you know, things go against them as well. But you know, great start from them. Hurley Langton over after a couple of minutes, but they don't manage to restart properly, and Dragons get back on the front foot, and they get Hughes over, then Beelum over from close range, and Top Porch did well to finish his try off then for the third try for Connacht. And it's great as well to see him back in the Connacht team, because I think he just has that little bit extra for them. You know, I think you know, when I saw him there first, I kind of thought, yeah, this guy's a proper rugby player, and you know, a really good signing for them. And then when he got injured, you know, it was a little bit unfortunate really for him and for the team. Then we have Williams gets over for the Dragons, and then a couple of minutes later, again, game swinging back and forth. Heffernan over for Connacht to kind of, you know, nudge them back, you know, in front a little bit. And then we have a penalty from Hanrahan. Before that, Rio Dyer, right? Rio Dyer actually, I thought did really well to finish off a move in the corner. And then Hanrahan slots a penalty. And then Evans gets his second penalty, I think, just a couple of minutes later than that. And like, it's all tied up at 27 all. And, you know, we had like Connacht as well had like they had a yellow card period where D was in the bin, and it was pretty much the same time as Heffernan got his try. But then, like, I'm pretty sure that Dyer scored, they conceded either just before the yellow card period ended or just after the yellow card period ended. But either way, like, Dragons actually looked a better team when they were down to 14. But right to death, then we have Carter gets a red card, and then Tierney Martin gets over for the winning try for Connacht. Dragons did try and produce a response, but couldn't quite do it. As I said, you know, if you want a longer summary of the game, you can check out the one that's on the channel. But yeah, Connacht, I think in the end deserve winners. Dragons, it's just great to see them performing again, because again, you know, as a rugby fan, as a URC fan, I want to see all of the teams being competitive. I don't want to see any teams being kind of soft touches, you know, that are expected to lose week in, week out. So it's just good to see them being so competitive in the game, having kind of dropped off performance-wise, you know, kind of in the second half of the season. So we're going to have a quick look at the table then. So the big news, obviously, is Glasgow Warriors are now top of the table on 58 points. So they hunted down Leinster, and now they're taking that spot from them at the top of the log. And honestly, 3 rounds to go, it's hard to see them relinquishing that spot now. You know, I know it's only 4 points, and but you know, they've got a decent chance, I think, now of you know, going through you know, the rest of the games, and maybe, you know, and matching. I think that's what it is, you know, matching Leinster for the last 3 rounds. Not kind of a walk in the park, because they've obviously got to go to the Bulls for that. And, you know, when they're down there, Leinster playing Ospreys, so Leinster would probably feel like they would have a chance at least to maybe take that spot back. And then you've also got who they're playing next. They're playing the Lions then as well after that. But the way Glasgow have been playing, you know, normally I wouldn't have expectations of a European team going down to South Africa and getting a win, but I think that one we could probably see a Glasgow win there. I think that's probably going to be a big one for them, because the same weekend Ulster are playing Leinster. So, you know, Leinster, you know, for that one, you you're thinking, okay, Leinster should win, but maybe Ulster are going to get a bounce and beat them there. And then the final round of games, then Leinster versus Connacht and Glasgow versus Zebre. You're probably thinking 2 home wins in that one. So, top of the table there, yes. Leinster certainly have the chance to come back. But I think it all really lands on next week's results. If Glasgow can get like a losing bonus point or out of their game, then they're still in with a chance to stay there at the top of the table. Otherwise, Leinster could get them. Leinster there in second place, and Munster as well. Munster like coming up on the rails there in third place with 53. They're certainly not out of the reckoning for first place. They've really worked their way excellently back up there, and that's the reward really for what they've done down in South Africa. Leinster kind of reaped the, if that's the right word, reaped the reward for what they did in terms of 2 heavy defeats for them, whereas Munster, they brought their first team down there, and it paid off for them really. And now looking at it now, Leinster and Munster in the URC, you're thinking like Munster now, they've gone through those games, they come out the right side of it, and whatever about fatigue and travel and etc., and having hard games and legs and blah blah blah, from a fan's point of view, and like a fan who doesn't profess to have like huge knowledge over in terms of the effect that doing all of that has on the players, but just on what I've observed from the past, I prefer to be in Munster's position at the minute than Leinster's in terms of just momentum going in to the playoff spots. Fourth place, then you have the Bulls on 51 points. So they're like a little bit of the loser over the last little while, right? They've kind of dropped down, and now they're the target for the likes of the Stormers in 5th place there with 45. But we still have that logjam of teams like that are very close. You got Connacht in 6th, 1 point back on 44. Ulster in 7th, also on 44. Benetton in 8th on 44. Edinburgh in 9th place on 43. Just 1 point out. And again, they had that win against Cardiff. Couldn't quite get over for the bonus point that would have seen them actually move up into the top 8 there as well. And that's how close it is. As I said, every single match point counts for a huge amount for all of these teams, in around this area. Got Ospreys then, who are 3 points back. So Ospreys know that potentially, they could miss out simply because they're going away to Leinster next weekend. But if they can kind of catch the Leinster team on the hop and get themselves a win, suddenly they're back into things again, right? Then the Lions we talked about, feels like now they had that win over Leinster, which was brilliant, but then the defeat against Munster now means that they're just those, they're 5 points adrift, but 5 points is a lot to make up in 3 rounds. You're basically, and especially when you think about it, that it's not just they can't just make up 5 points on one of the teams, because if they gets it's possible certainly that they could get a bonus point win against Leinster, but if they make up those 5 points on Benetton, it may not be enough, because maybe Edinburgh have made up an extra few points as well on them and move that goalpost for them too. So I'd say the Ospreys and the Lions really now, those are the 2 teams that are in a little bit of trouble in terms of getting that momentum to get into the playoffs. But I'm not ruling them out at this stage. I don't think you can honestly rule out any of those teams, because we've seen too many shocks especially in the last few weeks, in terms of like people saying, well, this team is obviously going to win that game, and they don't. So, but on to the rest then, like Cardiff in 12th place on 25 match points, beginning to kind of, their season beginning to peter out a little bit. Again, I felt like they probably should have beaten Ulster at the Kingspan last week, but Edinburgh were deserved winners against them this week, so they've got to find a win or some points from somewhere, because now the Sharks are kind of hunting them down there, and I think given where the Sharks were, like rock bottom of the table for a long time, finishing 12th will feel like a bit of a mini victory for them in terms of the end of the season. So it's going to be a nice battle between them over the last 3 rounds. Then at the bottom, then we have like a 3-way battle to avoid kind of finishing bottom. We've got Scarlets, who at times they look impressive with the ball, and that's in most of the games you can say that, but they're not producing 80-minute performances, and it means like that a lot of the time they're looking good for periods, but then they're not really getting much return from the games, other than maybe some nice highlights when you put all of their decent tries that they got together. Dragons, they got that results. Well, they didn't win, but they got they got a bonus point right this week, so against Connacht, so that was decent from them. Could have potentially gotten a draw out of the game as well, but Connacht just had a little bit to go a little bit further. But again, every point counts. They've got a 1-point cushion on Zebre, which when you're down at that end of the table, teams are more often than not, if they're going to score any match points, it's going to be in 1s and 2s rather than in like 4s and 5s, the way it is up towards the pointy end of the table. So that could be enough to keep them off the bottom of the table. Then you got Zebre down there as well. This week's performance against Glasgow, not brilliant, but Glasgow put a lot of teams to the sword this year as well, so they can't be too disappointed with that. They just kind of got to pick themselves up now and see how they go in those final couple of games. They're looking for a couple of points really from that, and hoping that the Dragons will go their way as well. But at this stage, between Scarlets, Dragons, and Zebre, it really only takes a win for one of those teams to avoid, I think, being at the bottom. And also, like, you could easily see a situation where maybe Zebre get a win and shock somebody. Dragons get themselves a losing bonus point, and suddenly Scarlets are bottom of the table as well. So again, it feels like every team still has something to play for, and just, it's brilliant. Again, I know I'm a Leinster fan, I shouldn't be saying it's brilliant to see Glasgow at the top of the table, but I just feel like, again, my rugby fanness, as it were, just kind of trumps that at times like this, where I do think genuinely it's great to see Glasgow there at the top. Obviously, as a Leinster fan, I'm hoping that Leinster can do enough to get themselves back into first place by the end of round 18, but then Munster there as well, but like this week really does belong to the Munster boys.